The Cat of Nine Tails came out in 1971, and this was the second film to be written and directed by Dario Argento, and the second movie of his animal trilogy. The first one being Bird with the Crystal Plumage, then this one, and then Four Flies on Grey Velvet, which came out the same year as this one. This was a patron request for Jeannette Spevak, who I believe said this was their favorite movie of 1971. I will be releasing a top 10 of 1971, top 10 horror movies, that is, uh, in the near future. So whether or not this makes that top 10, I won't spoil here. But what this movie is about, though, is a reporter and a blind retired journalist try to solve a series of murders. The crimes are connected to experiments by a pharmaceutical company in secret research. The two end up becoming targets of the killer. This stars Karl Malden and James Franciscus from like The Last Shark. And what I like about this movie is those two characters in this movie, and I like the relationship between the uncle and his niece, who calls her uncle Cookie. Like I think the characters in this movie are pretty good, and the acting is also pretty solid as well. I like that this is a giallo with a killer that's not predictable in the slightest. I was not able to predict it the first time, and even watching it this time, I was like, I can't even remember who the killer is, and I have no idea. And also, this has Argento's style, like throughout his kind of camera work, the way the sets look. There's a lot of use of the colors like red and blue throughout that I noticed this time. Like, just keep an eye out for the color red. It seems to be in every single scene. The movie looks great. It's shot well. Even the like action sequences with the car chase. It's a pretty funny car chase sequence. There's some really humorous moments throughout that I really appreciated. There's just some fun, like quirky characters that you would get in other Argento movies. Characters like the guy who has like all these tools and screwdrivers and shit. Like in his coat pocket, he's got like all these different gadgets because he's like an expert at breaking into places and picking locks. And you got this other character who's always talking about his wife's cooking recipes, even though no one gives a shit. He just keeps telling to everyone, they're like, yeah, whatever, we get it. And then there's like another character, like a barber, who's talking about slitting throats as he's cutting the main guy's like beard, which was pretty funny. And there's a really terrific train kill sequence in this where Argento chose to show us a close up of the guy's head getting hit by the train. It might seem cheesy to some nowadays, but it was just cool to see a slow mo, like close up of the guy's head getting hit by the train, and then we see a pretty awesome looking dummy getting like ran over every single wheel, just ran over a bunch, and it's just like spinning underneath. It's pretty brutal. This has a nice, beautiful score by Ennio Morricone. That's not like heavy handed and like sinister sounding. It's actually nice and soothing, which makes it a little extra creepy. I really liked the motivation for the killer. I just thought it was so ridiculous and original. It's not what you usually get in these movies, some kind of like revenge or, I want money. It's something completely different. I enjoyed the mystery. I thought it was intriguing enough to keep me engaged in the story. Plus, the characters were good. And, the third act got kind of intense, and there's a cool fight on a rooftop yet again. There's a lot of Giallo movies that I've been watching lately where they always end up on a rooftop, and this is another one that ends on a roof. But I like the demise of the killer at the end. That was pretty cool as well. This movie also has one of the best pickup lines ever, and I'm paraphrasing, but the guy says something like, on average, there's like 780 people making love every second. And so I don't want to bring down the average, so let's start having sex. I love that the blind man actually has a knife in his walking cane. I thought that was badass and also pretty funny. Getting into what I don't like about the movie is that I thought the second act was a bit sluggish. This movie does run over an hour and 50 minutes, which is kind of long for a giallo. They usually run at 90 to 100 minutes, but this one's over 110 minutes long. I felt like it could have been trimmed just a little bit. This movie also has one of those tropes that I can't stand, where someone has important information and they could easily just tell someone this information, but they choose to push it off till later. Like, they're on the phone with someone and they'll be like, oh yeah, I know who the killer is. I'll tell you tomorrow. Let's meet up. And they're gonna die before they get to that fucking meeting. I also felt it was contrived how often the killer just knew where people were at any given moment and was always just conveniently there right before they were about to get something important. Like, he just knew when everyone was about to, when they were getting close to getting something that was gonna get them closer to him. Like, with multiple characters, not just the blind guy and the journalist, but with this other woman who was dating the doctor, researcher guy. Like, he was just always around the corner from everybody at every moment. It's like, dude, this guy has a job. When does he go to bed? Like, he doesn't have time to be keeping tabs on all these people 24 hours a day. So it just felt ridiculous. Like, how does he know where to keep showing up? And while I liked the train kill, I was a bit disappointed that the rest of the kills were just strangulations. Like, this is Argento, who later on always had very beautiful, stylized, gorier kills in his movies, like in Deep Red, Suspiria, Tenebrae, Opera, all of them. Like, the kills in all those movies are usually pretty gorgeous looking and brutal, and this one is just a couple of typical strangulations, which I wasn't big on. I wish they would have been more in line with some of his later work. I guess I'm just spoiled. And just a couple funny little nitpicks. How did that guy not notice the milk spilled everywhere? And when he thinks it's poisoned, which it is, he tastes it first, just to taste it. Like, why would you taste poison? You think it's poison, you're gonna taste it a little bit. Like, what if that's all it took to kill you? Now you're dead because you needed to make sure it was poison or not. And another nitpick, something that's ridiculous, is they find this journal, like a diary that has all these entries, but every page just has 4 or 5 words, just one sentence at the very top, and then they flip the page to the next thing. It's like, why wouldn't that person writing in that diary just keep it going all the way down the page? Like, oh, I wrote 4 words, flip page, continue that thought, flip page, continue. I just thought that was absurd. So overall, it's shot excellent with some great characters and some good humorous beats every now and then, and one cool train kill, but it's very leisurely paced. The pacing was a bit of an issue for me, especially in the second act. I feel like the runtime is a little too long, and I wish that the other kills could have been better. So when it comes to The Cat of Nine Tails, I'll give this 3.5 out of 5. So those are my thoughts on The Cat of Nine Tails. What are your thoughts on this, Giallo? Let me know in the comments below. Where is it in your Argento ranking? Let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's all an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.